Hello, welcome to another episode of Beyond Chronic Disease. My name's Wendy Gathercole and I'm joined today with Deborah Husbands. Hi Deb, how are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, great, thanks. Now Deb is an Aura-Soma person, a specialist. Her unique childhood has coloured the way she sees the world, having lived in and experienced many different countries and cultures. She recognised an underlying language or similarity around the globe and has spent the last 27 plus years studying, practicing and teaching colour, light and consciousness, which is just amazing and I love it. Deb is a registered level 3 teacher with asiact.org, has a diploma in holistic integrated creative arts therapy, certification as a health and transformational life coach, and natural wellness advocate and business lifestyle mentor. And she is commonly referred to as the keeper of colour wisdom. I love that, being deeply connected to the Aura-Soma system, which I love too. Journeying for 28 years with the Aura-Soma colour care system enables Deb to teach students level 1, 2 and 3 courses with asiact.org. Deb also facilitates workshops in Beamer light pen training and a variety of light pen treatment plans, which we're going to talk about on another show. Deborah has a grounded and practical understanding of the physical body, mindset patterns and emotional intelligence, with a strong connected guiding sense of intuition and spiritual service. All of these offerings are combined into support on your journey and all show that colour, light and consciousness are still shining the light on the path of life, and all accessible now to those who seek to remember themselves. Wow, I love that, Deb.
Even sounds impressive to me, Wendy.
I love the Aura-Soma. So I just give it a little bit of an insight into you can explain all the Aura-Soma because you're the expert, but just a little bit of insight into me and my Aura-Soma path. I started Aura-Soma, I don't teach it, but I started following the map that was mapped out for me in 2017. So I've been using Aura-Soma for 5 years. And when I looked at that, I couldn't believe that every single day I have been using the beautiful aromas and colors of Aura-Soma. And so I'm on I know the listeners won't get this yet, but I'm just letting you know the insight. I'm on the tip of a sphere now, and I'm using bottle number 45.
Oh, nice. That happens to be very close to my heart.
Now I'm just going to flick it over to you, and you know what got you into this? I mean, I just sort of got a bit of an insight into reading your bio, but what is Aura-Soma? Just so the listeners know what Aura-Soma is.
Well, it's a very difficult question to answer because it's so subjective to each person's perception. But ideally, it's going to be you are the colors that you choose, and this reflects what your being needs. So ideally, it's a system of interaction with your consciousness and your inner world, and that can actually show you areas to focus on. Aura-Soma itself actually means light body. So I know you can't tell like through the screen, but I'm actually a light body builder. And, you know, as you were going through the bio, I was thinking, wow, 30 years within this system. And it's a never-ending journey. So I'm a perpetual student. And I think that the Aura-Soma appeals to our inner tuition and our innate sense of curiosity. And as we're curious, we get to sort of delve in a non-intrusive way into some of the experiences that we've had in our lives, whether that be mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, even sociological. But so it can be very personal about the colors that you're drawn to, or it could be something that you happen to notice that you're noticing. And there are messages within each one of those beautiful bottles. I just brought a couple here if people haven't seen them. Like, what really attracted me in the very beginning was when I picked up these bottles and I first saw them in Melbourne, probably 30 years ago. I thought, oh my God, I've got my very own wave machine. So that should tell you what era I was born in, because it was that era when wave machines just became quite new. And as I picked it up, this movement and magic stirred something deep in my soul. And that was like the desire to learn more about that has sort of compelled me along the way. So like 30 years, if I look back, there's a lot that's been learned, but I also can look forward and realize that, you know, it's the joy of more discovery as you go on. So definitely a non-intrusive, self-selecting soul therapy that can unravel some of the deeper inner mysteries and can fill you with creativity and curiosity on your journey.
Yeah, no, I love that, and it is personal. No, I'll call her my healer. When I went to her, she did the Kabbalah map. Do you refer to? Yeah.
Yes, I think that we have out of the system, I think that the Kabbalah's taken a little bit of a back seat. It's not something that we focus on quite so much anymore, because the Kabbalah is something that takes a lifetime of practice. And although Vicky Wall was the seventh child of the seventh child and the daughter of a Kabbalistic master, it was very much about the turning inwards as to what that color means to you in this particular time, rather than getting caught in the head of how it fits into different systems, because you probably are aware that color is, you know, non-judgmental. It's unifying. It could be whether you're black, white, green, blue, yellow, whether you're 15, 5 or 75, your relationship to color is what's important here. So I think there's been a bit of a movement away from the tree of life, so to speak, but it's an internal journey as to where you can find yourself placed and what sort of language you can use for yourself. So it's sort of like turning your eyes inwards rather than getting caught up in a whole heap of other systems. So they're good little guideposts, those things along the way. But really the system is about turning within and working out what your connection is in that moment to something that could perhaps shift your perspective so that you find a bit more freedom in life. You know, because if we get locked into one point, one perspective, you know, often it's at the end of a spiral and we feel like we've got nowhere to go, no hope, no nothing, no movement, no fluidity, we're stuck in life. But just by entertaining a different perspective, we're able to then shift around that issue, so to speak, and look at the opposite, look at the complementary energies with that, and start to find a bit more freedom of the soul in being able to use the energy you are drawn to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it does to me. Hopefully it will to the listeners. When you talk about a never-ending journey, I feel like I'm on the never-ending journey of not just Aura-Soma, but also, and it's a good journey, but also a never-ending journey of what's next in my life. Because as you know, in my book, that I started off my journey of healing with whole foods. That was the start of it, and it's gone on to so much more. And even in recent times this year, I've accessed something else other than, and it's all sort of from the energy point of view. But I just, when I'm still using the map, like you said, that it's sort of not what they do now. I'm just finding it so intriguing for me, and like I've used so many different bottles and colors, and it's just beautiful. And every time I go to a new one, which takes a little while to use one, but it just sort of the things that I've created in my life. And even when I go back to my healer and I say, hey, this has just happened to me, or this is happening, what's sort of going on or whatever, and she'll say, oh, are you using this color bottle? Or, you know, she just knows. Like, it's just amazing that you guys are so so good at knowing what we're up to.
Well, I think, you know, a big key is that you've chosen the bottles in the first place, and then that gives us a very clear indicator of how to relate to you, because it's your code that's been chosen. That's effectively your soul, your inner being, your inner intelligence is saying, I have something that I want this being to know, and this is the way I would like that information delivered. So in a way, it's beautiful that you can unlock something that your soul is trying to talk to you about, rather than sort of go, it's not a system that says you're broken in any way. On the contrary, it's a system that says you're actually perfect. Your light body is absolutely perfect. The way we interact with it has had layers of trauma or issues that have interfered with that particular flow. So Aura-Soma likes to, or helps people release some of the beliefs that they've made about certain traumas, so that we can actually fully embrace. Because as you know, you're not just this physical being, this one-dimensional being. And one of the most beautiful things about this system is that it works on every level of the energy field. It's not just the physical. These bottles, Vicky Wall always said, having a bottle is like having a photo of a loved one. And applying the bottle is like having a warm embrace. So like you've said, you felt like that warm connection to something mysterious and curious as you work through each of the bottles. And sometimes it's only in hindsight that you kind of go, I can see now how that's all related.
Yeah.
And if you've got partners that can work with bottles together, or it just helps you put a filter on how you're perceiving your life in any given moment. Like it gives you a little bit of a space to explore, rather than being locked into anything truly rigid, because we're just big beings of light that extend in a variety of different areas, and each one has got a different message. Each part can show us a different, something magical about the whole.
And I love the way you put that, because it's like in my book, I have said, about fixing myself, and it's not that we're broken. And like you say, it's just get rid of the layers of the trauma, and that comes out through using the Aura-Soma. And that's just what I've found with so many of the different therapies that I've used, that it just keeps doing that. And with the Aura-Soma, when I was using it, I still use that. But in the book, I've made references to a couple of the bottles. There was one where I was using, actually, I'll have to look it up. It's here.
60 and 32.
I was using bottle 60 when I fractured my ribs. Tell me about bottle 60.
Was related to a story of carrying the light within yourself and being able to communicate within your being about something you might have been suffering about. So in that case, we could say that was your ribs, but it's also the throat, the lungs, the breath of life, the peace of mind. So you might have found yourself suffering from something that wasn't quite in the flow or peaceful to you, or caused you some concerns in your mind. And as you got to accept more so the way it was rather than the way you want it to be, you found yourself getting closer to peace and clearer breath and perhaps a greater purpose. It's also connected to some energies called Lao Tzu and Kuan Yin. It's a master bottle. So it's like taking you to that next level of understanding how to communicate in the world. And I think it's quite interesting, your fracture and your journey led you into a way that's sort of almost created the book, and a way that you were communicating in the world when you've understood what's gone on behind the suffering that you were going through at that point in time. So it's an interesting journey.
It is. I know that when that happened, when that happened, I was using that bottle. I know at the time where I had taken on this journey of doing this sport, and I hadn't finished my diploma in aromatherapy at that stage. And it was always on my mind, how the hell am I going to finish this when I've taken on that? And lo and behold, I fractured my ribs.
You got two, yes.
So
well, it's very interesting. I just wanted to add in that, I know you've done aromatherapy and a lot of things. Now, I don't know if you know that within each one of these bottles are 49 different essential oils. There's water from the Gladstoneberry well and water that's been charged with a positive energy. And there's also crystal energies. So the Aura-Soma range combines the plant kingdom, the mineral kingdom, and the human, being HUE for color. They combine those three kingdoms together in a way that, you know, it's giving you something deeply connected to your inner being just by the color that you're drawn to. It's different to other systems where we are perhaps trying to fix something. It just shows us a little bit of information about why we are where we are. And I think in particular to do with suffering that's going on, and in particular to do with the world right now, with consciousness being such a commodity that's being fought after and sought after by all areas of our life. You know, we are actually being bombarded a lot in our minds, in our eyes, in the senses that we're drawn out of our physical bodies, more or less. So using a bottle helps us to bring our awareness and our consciousness back into something that's more physically anchored, that allows us even to be perceiving that there is something trying to steal our consciousness, which is terrible right now. You know, it's really amplified a lot right now. And I think Aura-Soma is in a really good position now to help people reclaim, retrain, and reframe their consciousness so that they can actually be empowering their lives again, moving out of that.
And I find even, you know, if our listeners aren't, you know, at that stage in their life now, I just absolutely love using the Aura-Soma. Like, you know, it's the first thing that I pick up to put in my bag to take away with me, and I have the little mantra there, and I just I don't know, it just makes me feel so much better. I can't explain. You explained it very well. I can't explain other than the fact that it just makes me feel. I just love it.
Yeah. I think it was originally Vicky was creating the system, you know, and she said it's as if unseen hands guided hers into creating this. And she was at this point, you know, in her late 60s, legally blind, had suffered a couple of heart attacks. So she'd gone through a long life of a lot of struggle. And she was a devoted lady, devoted to ritual and remembering, and was coming to this point in her life where she's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Why are you keeping me alive? What is going on? So like out of that came this wonderful gift. So I think that it reminds me, out of suffering, beautiful gifts can be born, and they can actually change the world. And I think there's something to do with hope and happiness, that as you do embrace the Aura-Soma bottles and they're applied on the physical body, they're actually taking a vibration of health into, like a memory of the light of you already being perfect, and a vibration deeply into your body to say, look, all of the experiences are okay. And a lot of our struggles are because we have, you know, wanting what we don't have, having what we don't want, and not knowing the difference. And that was the Buddha who talked about suffering. So as we use a bottle, we get closer to dissolving the non-clarity about the situation that we're in, and it helps us to embrace where we're at and be able to make the best use of where we're at in a way that it just, I heard something that said it can turn the eyes on in the heart that bring hope back into life, hope and happiness.
Well, it's certainly ringing true for me. I mean, I don't know that I would have done all of this without the help of the Aura-Soma. Honestly, it's it's just been a huge part of my life, and will continue to be, because yeah, wow. Certainly.
I tell you, be careful. If you end up with a full set of bottles in your house, it's very hard to ever, I mean, it's something every household should have, you know, because they are just so stunningly attractive. But working with them is bringing that attraction into the appreciation of all those aspects of yourself, you know, which is, I mean, there's not many systems that allow you to fully embrace and love your experiences in some way.
And also, it's just so easy to use, you know, it's not intrusive, it's just beautiful. not only the colors beautiful, they smell gorgeous. They,
Yeah, I love these. These are the another way of putting the pomanders into the room.
yes.
So if you need a quick shot, so I have these all lining up and down the stairs, and as I'm walking down the stairs, I might just squirt them in the room and actually then walk through that scent. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I love
no,
that.
they are absolutely gorgeous. So just one other thing, when I was using when I'm using the bottles, and if anything really cracks open in my world, I always look at the bottle and read up about it and all that, and I just say, oh my God, that is just so amazing. So when I decided to write the book, so I had a phone call out of the blue, do you still want to write a book? Because I went to a thing, a year before. Anyway, so I said yes and wrote this book. And at the time, I looked back on it and I thought, oh, what bottle was I using then? So everything I do in my life, I relate back to the bottle.
Yeah.
So I was using bottle 32. Tell me about bottle 32.
Oh, well, I probably should say, what did you sense about 32?
Well, I guess it made me stop the fear and just do what I really felt that I was required to do in this world.
It's beautiful because it actually says clarity in relation to the wisdom that lies within. So that's beautiful. A message from the stars, and I'm open to deep joy and peace that brings clarity into my being. So it does work with that, with that Sophia energy at that time that you had that beautiful awakening of finding a connection to your mission and purpose or a bigger reason. So it is amazing how accurate the system is, but especially because a key part of it is that you chose the bottle at the time. You've chosen, because there's always a movement of energy either towards something or away from something. You can go to a color that's just next to a color you feel like, or the opposite of the color. And so long as we're in motion, we get to connect even more deeply to the message that's going on within. So it did bring forward all of this beautiful book and all of the inner wisdom.
Yeah, and I was just sorry, I was listening to you. I just looked, I'm thinking, what am I using now? I just finished using bottle 86.
Yeah.
And that to me, it even cracked it more wide open and just made me go for it. Like this is what I really are required to do.
Which is the chariot, isn't it? The return journey of the chariot. So it's like that forward movement in your life. And the turquoise, because that bottle's clear on turquoise, it's about who am I in relation to the space I find myself in right now? Who am I in relation to my creativity? And I think it's beautiful. You've moved a little bit into turquoise on magenta now with the bottle 45.
Yes.
One of my absolute faves.
I love the colors. Like, so when I finished that bottle, so as I was using the bottle 86, this is when I developed this show.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And it was sort of towards the end of using that bottle. So I think it was probably, only a few weeks ago that I finished that bottle, and I haven't been doing the show for long. So I thought that was really amazing.
Yeah, because turquoise relates to the silicon chip as well, and communications from the feeling side of being. Right. So that's like a beautiful confirmation that it couldn't have been any other way except a podcast or involving computers or groups of people. So that's exciting.
Well, that's actually so interesting and exciting to me, because I didn't really know the full extent of that. And it was like through this process of doing the book and everything that they sort of tell you how to do stuff, and nothing was gelling with me at all. And I basically woke up one day and I said, I just need to do this podcast. This is the podcast. This is it. This is what I need to do. So so that's just
the powerful influence of Titania, that creative energy and awakening out of one illusion and being able to create or ground something else from that creative space. So Like, that's perfect. And it's wonderful that you reflect to me. You don't have to know what it's all about, but I love the fact that you are super aware, so that you have the consciousness to even look back and go, oh, I can see how these things could have played together in that forward movement, because that's exciting in itself. That's an awakened mind, you know.
And and like when you say I could, I've gone back and had a look, it's not that I had to go back and have a look. I was just, really curious, and I just always love that, the wonder of what these what Aura-Soma gives to me, really. And at the moment I'm using bottle number 45. We mentioned that before, and what's showing up for me, and I've
See, I've got it in my hair. It's
I know. I noticed that, actually.
Yeah.
So what's showing up for me now, and at the moment, and I've only just started, is just really accepting me more, and just accepting me more, and just knowing that I'm great the way I am, and
I love that.
All of that. So that's showing up for me now, and I've only been using this bottle for maybe a week. So
I love that bottle. Oh, I love that bottle so much. It's called the Breath of Love. And it's exactly, as you've just said, for you, it's like everything's beautiful in its own way. And the movement of trying to search for who am I has now somewhat been replaced with peace in each moment, love in the in-breath, love in the out-breath, that it's not necessarily the look of the search for who am I now, but it's more like, well, I know I am here. I am present in this breath. And that's like, it's a beautiful, warm embrace of the space that you find yourself in that 45 energy, which is just gorgeous. So and I'd say care and attention to more of the details that will come as this, as your podcast explodes or expands.
Both.
We'll reach to more of the people, and the energy will bring, more of that into your life each day. But also, as working with any bottle, there will be a challenge that can come up whereby anything that's not loving itself, in this particular case of the bottle, anything that's not allowing you to be present and within that flow will come up for you to release. It'll either come up to be seen or come up to release. So, like, it's not a spiritual journey of complete love and light on the way. There's also that deep work and transformation that you go through in going, well, if it was that I was perfectly in love with all that I am, then I would be like that all the time. But what will show is somewhere along the line, there'll be something that needs healing in that. So it's like that beautiful bringing your attention into each moment rather than thinking too much of the big picture or what the consequence of things will be, but bringing that trust into, you do know what you do and you do know the way you do it, and you trust more in that being supported in your body.
And that's so true, because even sometimes, like I said, I've only been using it for around about a week, but even in those moments, I'm like, nah. It's like,
what do you mean I'm in the flow of creativity? I'm not. Where is it gone?
And then you just reflect on, and that's the moment where I say, hang on a minute, that's not true.
Yeah, perfect.
What's true here? This and this. But I guess we're only human. We all have human moments.
For sure. And it's not what you do so much as the way you do it. And I think that this never-ending journey of learning about colors and knowing the self deeply, as you get to know yourself more and more, like you've said, you got to interrupt that thought straight away and go, well, wait a minute. And as you move through the system, things get quicker and quicker with you being able to choose, that freedom to choose which way you're going to sit with it. So like, I think we're going to see a lot of people come and hit up against a lot of suffering, particularly our youth who have been masked for however long, who have not been able to see facial expressions or interact fully with their senses. Like, we need to bring back that sensual connection to life, you know, even as you began with food, knowing the difference between what tastes good and what nourishes the body versus what you think the mind wants.
Yeah.
You know, and we're only going to know that by experiencing and experimenting, but ultimately we'll be drawn to those things that are natural, that support us in embracing our natural connection to all of the senses and our ability to be a being of light that's here exploring life on earth. And then when you realize that you're not a victim and there's not a trap, that you've got the ability to make a different choice, to use that experience that you're with to learn whether you never want to go back to that sort of an experience, or whether you want to move to something else. There's freedom in the extra knowledge that you're not just stuck in one spot. You can be fluid, you can be that light body more and more.
Yeah, and sometimes it's difficult for some people to get to that point, depending on, you know, where they're at. But yeah, wouldn't it be great if we could just give everybody a bottle of 45?
Well, I just think that they should be bringing in pomanders, light pens, bottles. Wouldn't it be great if they had a set of 7 bottles in a school and they taught the kids what it was like to relate to different chakras, or relate to, okay, if you've got fears and concerns, you're going to maybe end up with a tummy ache. And if we can just bring a little bit of relaxation into the moment, maybe the tummy will be okay. Or maybe if there's something you're trying to control and you feel out of control, you might end up with a headache. So being able to bring peace into the mind and teach them some meditation tools, or, you know, that it would be wonderful to bring those into everyday life for everybody, for sure. It's a mission I have to do that now.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit like that too, Deb, with like the body, knowing your body. One of the chapters in my book is Know Your Body, and I mean, it's just a real, my book was just a real, like, a brief encounter of the whole thing. Like, there's more layers to that as well. But just, you know, bringing that into knowing your body. You know, we all know that stress, you know, most people feel stress in their shoulders or something, and yet they don't realize that something else, like our thoughts, can create other problems in our body. So I'm all about your body. I do lots of stuff for my body that works wonderful. So I'm into that as well.
I think it's really important, especially within the color language, that we know there's 3 brains, 3 areas of the body that have intelligence. One is our brain, how we perceive things here from our conceptual thoughts, what we've been taught. The second one is actually in our gut. It's our gut instinct and our feelings and where we digest things. And that field is, you know, all about feeling our way through the experience. And then there's actually a physically stored one where trauma, but also life force and passion sit. And that's in the red bowl at the bottom. And I think it's a beautiful way when people can embrace what's going on in their body like that. They have the choice to change the habits that have taken them to the place that they are. They're not happy where they are mentally, emotionally, physically, then we've got freedom to change that. Rather than saying, I shouldn't be a certain way, we're empowering people to go, well, hang on a minute, I've just learned now that that's a part I need to heal, or that's a part I need to feel, or that's a part I need to put some action into. So those 3 bowls are really a key part of the whole Aura-Soma system at the moment.
And that's lovely. So have you got any other bits and pieces that we need to know about Aura-Soma?
Look, I would say for anybody who's looking to connect more deeply to the inner world that exists, that honestly, when I began to look, I didn't even know this inner world existed. I was a little bit, you know, I was overcompensating with being clever and communicating and working in HR. So I knew that, but I didn't know there was an inner world to actually talk to. So I suggest everyone could get on the journey of learning a little bit more about what that color means to them. So there are, if we look at asiact.org, you'll be able to find registered practitioners that are all over the globe. And when people go through the training, we're all sticking to exactly the same way in delivering a consultation, so that anyone can go around the world and find themselves in front of a beautiful set of bottles and see what they're drawn to begin a journey of empowerment and getting a little bit more closer to happiness. And as I said, I think anyone working with anybody, working with children, caring for someone, working in schools, working in group work, could begin to work with the Pamandas that allow a beautiful, safe and energetic space to be held for people to go through those awakening moments. So I just think Dr. Jacob Lieberman wrote a book years and years ago, probably late, well, I can't even quote when, but it was called Light, the Medicine of the Future. And I think that it's really critical for humanity now to start to be aware that there's more than just what we see that makes up our whole being. And this whole quantum world that's now awakening is super exciting. Me anyway, with bringing
for me too.
And I just think it's a beautiful thing. You know, there's been two theories of light. One was that it was a wave theory, and one was that it was a particle theory. Quantum physics have just shown that both can exist. And that's what I love about the Aura-Soma range, is that it's unifying, that all angles can exist. We do not have to have separation. Through color, you can find unity. And certainly I think the world needs a massive dose of unification right now.
Definitely. Well, thanks, Deb. I will put all your details in the show notes, but can you just let people know how to get onto you?
Yeah, look, I'm up in Brisbane currently at Chermside West, and I am running level 1, 2 and 3 courses for Aura-Soma, also consultations or Beamer Light Pen series. But as I said, so I have a website called indelight.com.au. That's how people can connect with me. And asiact.org is how people can connect to whoever else maybe in the area around the world. But yeah, you'd probably have to email me. I'm still a bit old school. I'm not so flash when it comes to technology. However, I am a turquoise being, so it should be there. But I have also got an app that will be created. So if people want to email me, I can put them on the list for this app that allows them to sort of choose what color they want to tune into through the day and work with a Pamanda. And there's a little bit of a guided meditation so that they can start to begin that conversation with themselves.
Nice. And so you heard Deb, it's asiact.org, not asiact.org. Like
it's close. I feel like it's a little bit hidden and secret and mystical.
So thank you again, Deb. It was just so delightful to talk to you about Aura-Soma, which is something that I absolutely adore using, and I really believe that it's helped me create more of me. I was always there, but I've just come out in a different way of coming out.
Remembered yourself and allowed that out a little bit more. So that's beautiful. Thank you for the opportunity to talk a bit more about color, and it's always beautiful to meet someone who loves the journey. So thank you.
Well, thank you again. I just loved having you on here. So I really want you to come back one day, so I'll chat to you soon. So
no worries.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.